In the last section, we had a quick discussion about load balancers, and we discussed why they're not quite appropriate for our application. In this section, we're going to move forward and talk about ingresses. This is a type of service that is going to eventually get some amount of traffic into our application and allow our outside users to access all the different pods that are running containers that they need to get at to actually access our app. All right, so quick diagram here. So as you might guess, yep, traffic's going to come in, it's going to hit this thing called an ingress, and then it's going to be sent off or routed off to either our client set of pods or the server set of pods. Now, in the world of Kubernetes, there are several different implementations of an ingress. We are going to be using a very specific implementation called an Nginx ingress. Now, before we talk about exactly what this Nginx ingress is, how it works, all that kind of stuff, I want to have a very important discussion with you. Really critical that you pay attention to this, because if you don't, it's going to make things really, really confusing when you go and start to look up documentation. Okay, so here's the very important note, the very important thing you gotta understand. So you and I are going to be using a project called Ingress Nginx. That's the name of the project. This is a community-led project, and by community-led, I mean that it is a part of the official Kubernetes organization. So it's led by people from Kubernetes, full endorsement of the Kubernetes project, a lot of backing, a lot of strength behind this project. I put the link to the GitHub repository for it right here. So you can try to visit that repository, and you're going to see, okay, here's the page, documentation. You see some stuff called like Nginx Ingress Controller. Now, in addition to this ingress called Ingress Nginx, there is a completely separate project, totally separate, that does almost the exact same thing with almost an identical name. So a separate project out there is called Kubernetes Ingress, and this is also an Nginx-based ingress. It is a project led by the company Nginx. It does like the same exact thing, almost identical name, but it's 100% separate, totally separate. And so right here, this is the GitHub repository for it. I'm going to go there as well. And if you scroll down to the README, you're going to see that this repository also has a title of Nginx Ingress Controller. Well, here's the project that we're using, and it's also called, very helpfully, Nginx Ingress Controller. So yeah, like these things are nearly identical in looking, but they are very much separate projects, and they work differently. So whenever you are looking up documentation, you got to be like 100% certain that you're looking at documentation for the Ingress Nginx project. So in general, I recommend that you go to this GitHub repository, probably even bookmark it right now. And anytime that you need to look up documentation, come to this repo, make sure you're looking at Kubernetes Ingress Nginx, and then try to access documentation from this page. Because otherwise, you might accidentally fall into looking at documentation for the other project, the Kubernetes Ingress project. All right. So I know this is really confusing, but again, I wanted to make a really big deal about this and make sure that it's 100% clear that, yes, these are two separate projects. We are not using this one. We are using this one. So with that in mind, let's take a quick pause right here. We're going to come back to the next section with one or two other brief notes.